And until we reckon with those, just the basics, the ability for someone to just exist and thrive, I think we won't see too much headway on anyway and on anything else, Democrat Party included. We have to be able to be honest with ourselves in this party to say we also have issues with women leadership. We
Right.
also have issues with race in
Right.
the Democratic Party.
And we do. All right. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to Real Talk with Karen Weaver. Before we get into this evening's interview, this evening's show, I'm going to tell you what I always tell you: to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you do that. But I'm really happy to have this interview. I'm excited for this interview. Because we've been having some, I think, some really meaningful conversation around what's going on in our lives, and it's been interesting because one of the things we always talk about is local politics. You know, all politics are local, and how important local and state politics are. What's been interesting about this time around, as I bring my guest in, is this is one of the times where we see where government from DC is influencing our day-to-day lives. So with that, we're going to get into this conversation, but I want you all to help me welcome Jerron Totten. I got that right, didn't I, Jerron? And Totten. Okay, see, there I go. I got
That's okay.
The second part wrong, but Jerron Totten, thank you for coming on. And Jerron is chair of the Michigan Democratic Party LGBT&A Caucus. And where are you, Jerron?
I am in Detroit, Michigan.
You're in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
And so thank you. I'm glad you're here because we've been really busy. There's been a lot going on the political field. And we just had an election not too long ago for the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. And that was February 22nd. And we just got a new chair for the party. Yeah. And but there were other parts to that election. Is that so? Tell us about that, because you're new to this elected seat, correct?
Yes. So on February 22nd, the Michigan Democratic Party had its convention here in Detroit, Michigan, and most all seats were up for election or re-election, and so that's from the chair. Chairs of congressional districts, caucus chairs, club chairs, every arm of the Michigan Democratic Party held its election on February 22nd.
Okay. And see, you know what? So, I was talking with you earlier and I was saying that I met Al Williams and he was running for that seat.
Yes.
And you were telling me about a slate. And when we were having that conversation, that was the first time I had heard that. So tell me about that a little bit more.
Yeah, so Al Williams ran for the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party and ran on a slate called the Michigan Solidarity Coalition slate. I was a part of that slate for LGBT caucus chair, LGBT&A Caucus chair. And so under that slate, I also had, my slate. We were the Michigan Solidarity Coalition slate for the LGBT&A Caucus. And so everyone on my slate was elected. My first vice chair, Scott Ellis, second vice chair, Tiana Burton, correspondent secretary, Toria Turner, and treasurer, Jonathan Gonzalez. Everyone on my slate did win that election. Unfortunately, Al did not win his election.
Well, let me say congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And so here you go. We have a new chair, and then we have other new positions. And tell us, what is the difference? Because you're part of the caucus.
The caucus.
Okay.
Yes.
So talk to us about the caucus and what the caucus does.
So the caucus is a constituency-based group that advocates for the political power and rights of LGBT plus people. And part of that includes endorsing candidates that will champion the issues of LGBT plus people in this state. And so as we look forward to local elections, our gubernatorial election next year, the caucus will be saying to the public, these are the candidates that are champions for our issues, support them.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because endorsements can be very helpful.
Yes.
When do you endorse? Do you endorse in the primary, or do you wait until the general?
We aim to do both.
Okay.
Endorse in the primary, and I'm so sorry, my puppy yells at everyone who walks by.
That's okay. It's just real life.
Right. And so we aim to do both. We aim to endorse in the primary because we do want to be a source of truth to folks in our community, to say these are the candidates that will support our issues while they are elected. And so, of course, after primaries, we will endorse those Democrats that make it through primaries, that champion our issues.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking, I know these are some maybe just really specific questions, because my question is, so does each caucus get to decide when they do their endorsing?
Yes, each caucus is autonomous in how they go about their endorsement process.
Okay, and I was asking because I know the Genesee Democratic Black Caucus does not endorse in the primary, and they have taken criticism for that.
Yeah,
and so
I mean, it's very safe to do that, you know.
Right, but sometimes safe isn't. We get behind who you're behind. You know, sometimes if I don't get the endorsement in the primary, I won't make it to the general. Sometimes people need the support that I have from, when I'm out of the cart running. They need who's running with me, who's supporting me, who's helping me get there. And so safe doesn't help you in those kinds of circumstances.
Oh yeah.
That's just me.
I understand.
Yeah, and so and that's come up several times. That's why I was asking that. That's why I was asking that. So that's really interesting to me. And I was glad to find out about you. I didn't know you. And I was talking to, a cousin told me that you might need to talk to my cousin, because I was telling her I wanted to have these kinds of conversations around what is going on, and how, like we started off, usually it's local politics. That's what local politics, that impacts your day-to-day life. But we're seeing some coming out of Washington that are impacting our day-to-day lives in a way that we had not seen before. You see rights being taken, people's really civil rights. I've been in 2 meetings where I watched them vote to see, are we going to acknowledge and celebrate Black history? I said, when we start voting on that? I mean, basic kinds of things that are coming out of Washington. So this is really different. So, and we just came out of an election, a presidential election. Didn't go the way we wanted it to go. And I know I was working hard trying to get Kamala Harris elected. But something happened. I mean, what, it makes me think, and this is a conversation we've been hearing, is where are we now as the
Yeah.
Democratic Party? I mean, that should have been a wake-up call,
Hmm.
because Donald Trump is the president again.
Right.
And
Right.
I mean, what does that say as to where we are and what we need to be doing? What does that mean? I mean, are we losing people? What is your take on this?
I mean, it says that as a country, we
Mm.
still have um, issues of race, um, uh, uh, issues with women in leadership
Yeah.
that we have to reckon with, and someone has to take the lead on that. And it is my hope that Democrats will be just as aggressive as Republicans on standing on the values that make us Democrats, just as Republicans. There are just certain things that Republicans stand for:
Hmm.
pro gun, pro gun, pro Bible, anti LGBT, anti reproductive rights. There are things that you just know about because they are in lockstep about these issues. Currently, I can't tell you one issue that we as Democrats have come up with a consistent, concise message around. And it is my hope that before we hit midterms next year, we will have a message that speaks to our base and some others that will compel them to come out and vote in these midterm elections next year.
So hold that, because you said something else earlier as far as
Mhm.
being aggressive and not being as aggressive. And I remember
Yeah,
having a conversation actually with Secretary Clinton, Hillary Clinton.
yeah.
And we were talking, and I had been reading her book, and I told her I had a hard time reading it because it was the playbook that they used on me here and
Mm,
what they had done. And she said what you just said, as far as we're never as ruthless, we take the high road, and we're not as aggressive, and we need to be
mhm,
as ruthless, as aggressive as they are,
mhm.
because it's a battle.
I think one of the most frustrating things that our base has encountered is, whenever Republicans um, are in control of the legislature, the White House, they give you the middle finger,
Yeah.
figurative, figuratively and literally.
Hmm.
Um, but the years that the Democrats are in control of our legislature, it's respectability politics, reaching across the aisle. How can we work together? Which in theory sounds great, but
Hmm.
we're dealing with a group of people who are who has time and time again told us and shown us that they are not interested in reaching across the aisle. And so I would like for us to take their no as a no and plan and move accordingly.
Hmm. So, and then you said we have to have a message, because you're absolutely right. We don't agree on a lot of things, and we've got a
Mhm.
whole lot of messages. It's like we want to make everybody happy. I got this
Yes.
for you, and I got that for you, and this for you, and you said Republicans are lock and step. You know what they like and what they don't like,
Yeah.
uh, and with us, we're all over the place. So
Hmm.
what do we do? I mean, how do we do that? So you're over the caucus. You're the chair of the
Right.
caucus. So
Right.
what are you all doing when you're there where do you all meet?
Oh yeah. So we're going to have our I know this will air later, but we're having our first general membership meeting Wednesday, March 12th, which is at the time of this recording tomorrow.
Okay.
And we have a plan laid out for the next year and how we plan to educate LGBT plus people in the state on policy changes, how our government is impacting our everyday lives,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going to be educating the public on candidates who are running for office, who may or may not support our issues. You
Okay.
know, and to be frank, our issues are the same as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Eggs are still high, right? That was a big thing, uh, during the campaign last year. The price of eggs, the price of eggs, the price of eggs. Eggs have gone up
Mm-hmm.
under Trump, right?
Yes.
So it's not just about marriage equality. Fortunately, we have marriage equality, and I'm going to talk about that more about that in a minute. But it's not just marriage equality. It's not just gender affirming care, but LGBT plus people have the same concerns as other groups.
Mm-hmm.
LGBT people are on Medicare and Medicaid,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important that we keep those programs in place for folks who are in need.
You're concerned about education.
Education, all of those
All,
things.
all, and that's what you're saying. And and
Yeah,
and that's what I was thinking about is uh how do we come together? Because like you said, we're all over the place. But when you identify those values, those key core values, that
mhm,
there are certain things that you should want to live in a safe neighborhood, whoever, wherever you are. You should want,
right,
I'm going to say clean water wherever you live. I mean,
wherever you live.
right. I mean, you want a good education. There are certain things that wherever
Yeah,
you live, you should be entitled to have. Those should just
yeah,
be rights that we all have and that we all want. And so,
yeah.
how do we get so splintered? Because I think that's been, we've been very splintered.
We have been splintered, and we've allowed single issues to
Mhm.
splinter us. We've allowed different identities within the party to splinter us. Um, you don't hear in the Republicans say, "Oh, I am." We identify them as far right,
Mhm.
centrist, but they just identify as Republican.
Mhm.
And when they come out in front of the public, they have the same message. With us, we have our Democrats, we have our center Democrats, we have our progressives, right? And we splinter ourselves,
Mm.
but we really need to be able to say these are the issues that we agree on. This is our platform, and stick to that one platform.
Mhm.
I think that's the best way to counter what we're experiencing.
Yeah, because you're right. That's absolutely what they do on the other side is they have
Hmm.
their, 3, 4 main things, and
Yeah,
they stay right there on them. Doesn't matter
yeah,
if they get along, it doesn't matter if they like each other. They stick with the plan.
they
And
stick with the plan.
we obviously need a new plan.
Yes.
We obviously need a new plan. And it's interesting because you brought up another point that I lived it when you were talking, we were talking about Kamala Harris and what
Mhm.
happened and
Yeah.
identifying issues. Well, this is what got her, that is what got her. But what did you say? What got her?
The bottom line is that as a country, we said no to a black woman taking
Right.
the highest office in the land. That was it. Um, I struggled with the undecided folks.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell us you want to vote for Trump.
Uh-huh.
Because out of the two, if you didn't know who Kamala Harris was, you knew who
I
Trump
got tired
was.
of hearing that. Exactly.
I did too.
Yeah.
If you didn't know who she was, you
Her.
did know who he was.
Right.
And
And you should have
and
voted on
whether
the first time.
voted for and whether or not you knew who she was, the person who Donald Trump is
Should have been enough.
should have scared you. Should have been enough
Right.
for you to make sure that he did not get back in office.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it says to us that we as a country are okay with the rhetoric. We're okay with the antics and the dismantling pieces of our government. We're okay with that. We're okay with him cuddling up to dictators like Putin and
Mm-hmm.
Kim Jong-un. We're okay with him saying he's going to make Gaza a resort.
Resort.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I am so outdone by that whole issue.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what to do because I was fortunate to serve as state operations director for the Harris Walls campaign for the state of Michigan. And every rally we would have a protest, but not one protest was held at a Trump rally. And until recently, when Trump made that comment, once November 5th came and left, the protest stopped.
Mm-hmm.
The talk about it stopped. And so, over one issue, we have put multiple marginalized groups at risk under a Trump presidency.
And that's what people need to know. It's multiple. It's
Yeah.
multiple. And we all need to come and be a force to be reckoned with. That's
Correct.
what we need to be working on, is how do we do this? Because I can't believe we're back here. And that's interesting because the first time was difficult. But
First time
now
was difficult.
this is even, more in your
More.
face.
And we said that a second Trump presidency would be worse than the first one. In fact, he said it himself, which is why, it goes back to my point. If you didn't know who she was, he told you who she was not. Right.
And she wasn't him. She wasn't Trump. And
that lets me know that collectively as a country, we are okay with that. We're okay with the racism. We're okay with the xenophobia, with the homophobia. We're okay with the his issues with women in leadership. We're okay with all these things, and until we reckon with those, just the basics, the ability for someone to just exist and thrive, I think we won't see too much headway on on anything else, Democrat Party included. We have to be able to be honest with ourselves in this party to say we also have issues with women in leadership. We also have issues with race in the Democratic Party.
And we do. And we do. I was, and it's all over because, I was watching the other day as they were pulling up the Black Lives Matter in DC. Yep. They're dismantling that as well.
Dismantling that. And, I never would have thought that just that statement would become weaponized in the way that it has.
Exactly.
Other things, DEI, being woke, all these things have become weaponized to a point where they've taken the meaning from them and made it something completely different.
And they use scare tactics with it.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of scare tactics with it as well. So I said, you can't have that. And, down there, just to say, well, Black Lives Matter, that has to come up now. I mean, that's sad as to where we are, but it goes back to they're not ready. They're not ready to see, Obama got through there, but they're not ready. They're probably saying that won't happen again. We don't want that to happen again. And we certainly don't want it to be a Black woman, like you said, in position.
The election of Donald Trump is continued, I want to say revenge for the election of a Black man to the White House. They're still mad about it. And you hear it because, I mean, we're what, 1, 2, presidents removed from an Obama administration,
Right.
and they're still
Mad about it.
saying his name. They're still mad about it. They're still blaming him for things, that have really nothing to do with him.
Yeah, you're right, and that's a good point. They're still mad about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that anger has fueled this movement of Trumpism, of MAGA,
Right.
and how they're so blatantly able to spew hateful rhetoric.
And it's empowered people to do
It's
the
empowered
same.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it played out all over.
Yeah.
See it played out all over.
Yeah.
And it's got, I don't know, even throughout local politics, you do see,
Mm-hmm.
this played out. It's like, wow, that was a Trump move. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. And it's interesting because you have to be careful, because what do they say? All skin folk aren't kinfolk either.
Are not kinfolk.
And they will get people that look like us to oppress us and to keep us down, and carry out their agenda. And so those are the kinds of things that we have to be mindful of. And that's why, and that's part of why I'm having these kind of conversations, because I think I left my vote pen is in my purse, because I've been wearing my pen, because I said, we always wait until election time to have these kinds of conversations, and we need to be educating the community all the time. You need continual education. So,
the time to prepare for the midterms is now.
Right.
And that's what the caucus plans to do, to create a plan now, to start educating voters now about what does voting look like next year, who are the players, who do we have in the political landscape that will protect our rights.
Mm-hmm. And we need to be, and I'm glad that's a plan that, you have that plan in place, because those are the kinds of things that we need to be looking at is, who has our best interest, who's going to be fighting for us, who's going to be speaking up for us, who will have our back, and those kinds of things. And you can't you can't figure that out sometimes in a quick period of time. Sometimes you need to watch some people and have time to talk to people and do your research, so those kinds of things. And it sounds like that's the plan you all have put in place.
Yes, with partners that have identified themselves as or identified an interest to seek out, recruit, and train candidates, recruit and train community members to go into their neighborhoods and talk to other voters, not just about candidates, but about issues, and how candidates and elected officials can be of service as it relates to those issues.
And a lot of people don't know, because that was something else I was thinking about is, okay, the election is over, but we still need to talk about this, because how do you hold people accountable? And what can you do? What is your role in that? How do you make things happen? Those kinds of things. So I think those are really important conversations that we should be having, but educating people around.
One of the things that I really look forward to just consistently bringing up with the parties that we are always be organizing, always be talking to voters, not just in an election year.
Right.
We should always be making those phone calls, knocking those doors, registering new voters, because when you take a 9-month period and try to cram all of that in, it just becomes too much for any entity to do it just in that time period. But if we can figure out a way to keep voters engaged in and out of election years, I think we'll have a better landscape.
Yeah, I agree, because voter engagement is something we've all been talking about. Whatever group I'm sitting with, we're talking about voter engagement. Because where we are, we've had such, it's been pretty abysmal, our voter turnout. And how do you get people engaged? And so, you know, it was funny because you would see people even early voting, you know, that was put in place and people early voted. But was it more than who would have voted anyway? Was it like I early voted? If they didn't have early voting, I was going to vote. So how do we get those other people to say, yeah, let me get on? Because we had buses taking people, vans taking people for early voting, you know, just talking to them and trying to get some excitement around. But I think you have to be excited about it more than just at election time, like you were saying.
Yeah. Providing that education in and out of election years is key. One of the things that really disappointed me last year was the whole non-committed vote movement, because I understand that was a method to send a message in the primary. But when you start a movement like that, it takes a lot of time and a lot of money to re-educate those folks and say, all right, we made our point in the primary. It's time to pivot and come out and vote in the general election. And one, there was no time to do that. But two, there wasn't an effort to even raise the resources to try. And so I think when we start those kind of movements over single issues, it becomes dangerous, and we see the effect of it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I was disappointed, and it wasn't just me, because you know I was working with some people that we had some people working. I was disappointed with how I saw things going at the local level. Sometimes I was like, are we trying to win a campaign here? You know, I mean, really, I saw more resources for others than for Kamala Harris. I said, I wish you worked that hard on this part of the campaign. So it was, are you really trying to get her there? But it goes back to, do we really want a Black female in leadership? I mean, do we even want a woman in that position? You know, you think about Hillary Clinton, she didn't get there. So, you know, and I remember, I wondered about that. I said, they didn't want Hillary Clinton. And so how are we going to be able to do this? But I'm sure going to roll up my sleeves and try. Because why wouldn't I? So I think it goes back to that piece of it. And race played a lot in there.
Yeah.
And if we don't acknowledge that, we're kidding ourselves.
And I think another thing too that we ought to be mindful of is, as much as we can, we ought to support, and I think this will help, so that by the time we get around to a general election, you know, we already know what to do. But if the resources and support could be also put into local candidates in a similar fashion as they are with statewide and national candidates, we see a lot better turnout. If we did voter education for local elections, started local, we'd be able to improve our situation.
Right. And I do think that we wait too late, because we really come out big for the general. And it's like, but goes back to earlier. I mean, if I don't get it through the primary, I won't be in the general. And so the effort, the time, the energy, the money needs to be, and the endorsements need to be there then. Yes. Because I have to get over that hurdle to get to the finish line. I can't be in the race for the finish line. If I don't get over that hurdle. And so you're right, we wait late and we don't put those financial resources available for the local elections. And those are so important. They're so important because that's how everything works. You know, you look and you say, Well, who does this? Well, that should be your state rep that's doing that. That should be your state senator, your state, these positions. And that's why they're there, because you need someone in Lansing speaking up for you and being there for the vote and all those kinds of things and saying, no,
Right.
back at home in Flint, here's what we need, or back at home in Saginaw or Detroit, wherever it is, here's what we need. And so you need somebody there that's beating the drum for you back, for you all back at home, for us back at home. And so those things are so important. So we must do a better job. So let me ask you this. How long are you in your seat?
I'm in my seat for 2 years.
Okay.
So elections are held every 2 years at the Michigan Democratic Party convention.
Okay.
In the spring convention.
In the spring convention. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're there for 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. It's like a state rep or a Congress.
Exactly. Yep. Every 2 years we're up for re-election, and so it is our hope that we are able to support candidates and to educate our members in such a way that they re-elect us.
So what do you want? What is your vision as you lead the caucus? What is your vision?
My vision is really just to get back to the basics, to operate as a caucus should operate, to inform the public of policy changes, inform the public of ballot initiatives, to expand the electorate, and then to endorse, and not just endorse, but then to support candidates that will champion our issues, whether that be with an endorsement, with financial resources, with door knocking, phone banking, however we can be a support to those candidates that we know will be partners to us once in office. We want to support those candidates.
Well, I can tell you what, there will be a lot going on because there's a lot of elections coming up. That's for sure.
A lot of elections coming up. We have our local elections this year, and our statewide elections next year, and midterms next year, and it's looking interesting already.
Yes, it is.
It's looking interesting already. The governor's race got even more heated today. With
put his name out there.
Sure did. So now you have Gilchrist and Benson going for the governor's seat, and so next year is going to be interesting, and seeing how everything plays out, particularly in the primaries, to see who supports who. We've, like I said, in 2022, we were fortunate to achieve a Democratic trifecta in the state, and between 22 and 24, something happened, and so it is going to be our aim to, one, protect what the progress that we've made while we had our Democratic trifecta, and then to achieve it again. Uh-oh, I think your mic went out. There you go.
You can hear me again?
Yep, I can hear you again.
Oh, okay. Well, good, because I can hear you.
Okay.
But my voice to me, I know he's going to cut this part out. But no, it doesn't sound like it was earlier. But we did have that took place. And what do you think about Duggan running as independent?
I think that Duggan ran for mayor as a write-in candidate and was able to win.
That's right.
I believe Duggan has the resources. I believe Duggan has the connections to have a fighting chance. I also understand the feeling of abandonment
Mm.
that folks have because you ran and won for mayor as a Democrat, and Democrats supported your campaign. So now, what does it say about your identity? Because all of this is about choosing an identity. What does it say about the identity that you have chosen to go from Democrat to independent? What does it say about your values? What has changed?
Mhm.
And so I think it will be interesting to see what his platform is and how that will differ from a Democrat.
Right, because my question then would be, does he take some Democrats with him?
Right, right.
Does he take some Democrats with him?
Well,
Uh,
I can see that.
mm,
I can see, some Democrats, if he were to be elected, I could imagine a lot of Democrats would be a part of his administration.
yeah, it is very interesting. We'll see what happens if anybody else. So that's, I guess, three, well, four. Our sheriff, he's running as well. Chris Swanson, he's
Yes,
there as
Chris
well.
Swanson.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I
Interesting.
don't know much about Chris. Every
Oh,
time I've seen him, he's just been a sweet person.
mm-hmm.
To me, I mentioned I was operations director for the Harris Walls campaign for the state last year, and we had a big rally in Flint at one of your centers. I forget the name of the center.
Okay.
Uh, what is it called? What you all have a big stadium there, like an inside stadium in Flint.
Oh, was it at Dort Federal?
Yes,
Okay.
the Dort Center.
Okay.
And there wasn't enough parking for the amount of people that we were bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
And so we bussed some people. And Chris Swanson uh, used his bus with his face on it to bring people in and out. And I said, he's about to run for something. It was a big, big charter bus,
You
and it
said,
had his face
I
on it.
know what that is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you know what that is when you see that.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Not knowing much about his politics or where he stands or his values. Every time I've seen him, it's been a welcome hello. And so next year is going to be very
Well,
interesting.
you're going to be talking to people. You all are going to be doing research and all of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so so we'll see how that, see what happens.
yeah,
Like I said, it just got more interesting
yeah.
because Garland Gilchrist put his hat in the ring. So we'll see
He put
what.
his hat in the ring,
Yeah,
and I'm interested to see what our governor will do.
I am too.
Um,
That
I'm
would
I'm
be
interested.
very interesting.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, because if you don't support the person, your number two person.
Well, she was quoted in an interview, and the interviewer said it's tradition
Hmm.
that a governor endorse their lieutenant
Right.
as they leave the seat. And her response was, "It's time to change that tradition."
Oh, okay. Well, she told us then. We said when they tell you, believe them.
Believe them.
Believe them. That's what
Yeah.
that's why we've got our behinds in a crack right now
Well,
because we didn't believe them when they told us who they were. When we were
yeah.
told, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to send you all over here. I'm going to
Yeah.
take this from you. And we didn't believe them. Well, I did, but
And it's shocking,
mm,
right? The numbers that came from last year's 57% of Hispanic men
right.
voted for Trump. This goes back to your point about believing who they said they were.
Right.
So I don't know if Hispanic men thought that the deportation would not be indiscriminate or what, but
Right,
he clearly said, when I get back into office,
right.
everybody's leaving.
That's right.
Mass deportation.
That's what he.
And so, we're seeing the outrage
Mm-hmm.
of certain folks in Hispanic speaking communities. The woman down in Florida, and the Venezuelan community down there, they're upset. Other folks that supported Trump are upset. We've been seeing the town halls of these are Republican voters, having very intense town halls with their Republican legislators, and I just don't understand. We didn't know who Kamala was, but we knew who Trump was.
And we went
So
with it.
we went with him, and this should come as no shock. They even went as far as to write it down in a plan called Project 2025.
Right. That's right.
They wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
So I see no room for anyone to be surprised or shocked at anything that is going on.
Well, you know what? We're gonna pay attention. I want you to come back. I want you to.
I would love to come back.
Just a good conversation, and we need to put things on people's minds.
Oh yeah.
Start putting some things on people's minds.
Yeah.
Because
it
seems like we have a lot of time, but we don't.
Yeah.
Things are happening every day.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
I one of my favorite shows is John Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
And the cover of his show is like this tracker that says days without incident. And it shows him putting a 0 back up on and that's how it's been. It's been issue after issue after issue.
Right.
And if the firing of federal employees does not scare people, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about not political hires, but folks that have degrees and specialize in various areas of our government have been let go. And particularly when they said that the folks who guard the nuclear bombs were fired. And when they fired them, they didn't do any exit interviews or try to get their information. They were trying to hire them back and didn't know how to get in touch with them.
Wow.
Like, these are things that should scare us into doing something different.
Yes. Yeah, doing something different. Pay attention, and we'll do this again. We'll do this. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking with you.
Likewise.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on. Is there anything I didn't ask you about? Anything you want to make sure people know?
No. Be sure to follow the caucus on Facebook. It's the MDP LGBT&A Caucus. You can look us up on Facebook and see what we're doing, support our events, and keep in touch with us. You can email us at midimslgbta@gmail.com.
Thank you. Thank you. And you've already agreed to come back. So thank you for that as well.
I will come back anytime you want me.
Because we'll keep this going. I want to thank you all for listening to Real Talk with Karen Weaver. Jerron, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Chair of the Michigan Democratic Party LGBT&A Caucus. And I like it because you were just straightforward, just told the truth. And so we've got to watch people. They're telling us what they're doing. So when they tell us, we need to believe it and plan accordingly. And that's the message that we need to let people know. Plan accordingly. So
plan accordingly.
Yeah. So we'll see you next time. And I'll
right.
have you back.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.